Hey, I'm Rutledge,
Hey, I'm Connor.
and we're Friend Stream Sports. We're real friends who talk about real sports in real time. And Connor, I know you're really excited to play this matchup tonight.
I am so excited. We've got two mountain teams ready for a mountain of fun here as the Denver Nuggets take on the Utah Jazz.
See, this is what I was telling you earlier in pre-show. I think I'm unfair to the team. In Madden, in 2K21, Donovan McNichol's rocking a solid 88. Rudy Gobert is rocking an 88. Mike Conley is rocking an 84. I mean, we're talking about the Jazz later, but we're gonna play this. I'm excited about it, but my team is not as good as they are this year. Royce O'Neal is a 75. I'm rocking with him on a 73. We're gonna see how I take to the sticks in defending my win streak.
You know, I hear you, right? The old Joker there, Nikola Jokic, he's only a 91. Did you know he has now more 10 assist games as a center than Wilt Chamberlain?
That's a pretty interesting stat for old jokey jokes. I know you love you some Jokic. It's for all of those that don't read Connor and mine's text messages. It's pretty much Connor is comparing almost everything to Jokic.
I mean, he's a stud. He's having an MVP type year.
And
So
I'm going to pause for a second as we go through because I'm broadcasting and I forgot to adjust the audio settings. So, Connor, take it away to help while I adjust these audio settings.
well, that is so wonderful. We want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Uh, one of the things that I did today to celebrate getting my second vaccine was I saw Godzilla vs. Kong. Rutledge definitely was quicker in getting the audio settings as he heard I was about ready to give a movie take. And here we go.
Oh no, I still haven't fixed the audio settings, just it wouldn't let me do it in that menu. So, this is
There
horrible
we go.
options. Come on.
So
Don't.
here's the deal. One of the things within Godzilla and Kong is that we are introduced to, whether or not you knew it or not, we have seen what is called the MonsterVerse. Uh, Dating back to the Godzilla movie from 2014, then to Kong Skull Island, then to Godzilla King of the Monsters. This was the fourth installment of a monster universe movie, and it did not disappoint, for sure. I enjoyed everybody in it. Uh, don't want to give any spoilers, but we have just a variety of good folks there. Millie Bobby Brown had a great performance, and it looks like we are leaving the match here to restart because audio is important as it relates to podcasting. Who'da thunk?
Definitely who to thunk. So, here's what's going on, boys and girls. This is a real time show in real time. And when you go to the grocery store before you decide to play a video game and realize that it won't let you change it online, you have to think fast on your feet. So, Connor, you might want to spoil Kong movie as I'm going to go in here all the way out and jump all the way back in to fix my audio settings.
Long extend her career, right? You see so many of these child actors, they have their little shtick and things like that. Um, and that's not to say that Millie Bobby Brown can't be sort of typecast into more of these big action movie type situations. I thought, but I could definitely see her being somebody who could take some of those things. Shoot, maybe over time we've seen how many extended universes that we're into as it relates to movies, and really make a big time career out of it. So definitely really excited to see as that progresses. One of the things that I didn't know about Godzilla, Rutledge, I don't know if you knew this. Godzilla has straight up laser breath.
Yeah, I knew
Did you
that.
know
It's
that?
like, yeah, it's his spikes light up and then he goes off.
Yeah.
It's like
So,
it's not laser breath. It's like a, I don't remember what the term is for it, but it's like toxic gas essentially.
but it looks like a laser.
I mean, it looks like a laser, but in the old movies when Godzilla before he was digitized, it used to be almost like a fire blue breath when they
Yes.
used to like
Uh,
walk on a sound stage and Godzilla would be a guy in a suit.
yep. So, a lot of fun. I was definitely Team Kong. I stayed Team Kong throughout the movie. Yeah, just a lot of really fun movie. And if you are somebody out there, if you are our listener tonight who wants to, go to the movie theater or watch it on HBO Max, I would definitely recommend. But you know what you're getting into? You're getting into a monster movie with a lot of destruction and things like that. So here we go with the tip off tonight.
Yeah, so live podcast, live show. Let's make this happen. Anyways, we're gonna play oh, that was bad. We're gonna play jazz, we're gonna play nugs. We're gonna play some basketball, and there was some bigger basketball. So thanks for those takes on Kong versus Godzilla, Connor. It sounds like out of Friends and a Stream and a Sports, you give it. What would your rating if the rating score was Friends, Stream, and Sports? What would you rate it?
I would give it a friend stream. It's not an all timer by any stretch, but
Makes sense.
it's still pretty good.
Makes sense. Oh, nice, nice steal. All
Good
right,
old
let me get this
steal.
point.
Wow.
Okay. Good old steal by Gobert. More on him later, but now we're in the first quarter here, finally playing, and we're going to talk about the men's championship game. I would like to once again say that also in our league that we had, we started our own bracket. I picked Baylor. I won that too, so uh, two brackets, Connor. I beat you in two brackets. It feels good. And this is what winning feels like. I've been winning in basketball. I'm winning in 2K right now. Go Bears coming in, shoots from the field, so it feels good. But I'll tell you who feels real good is the Baylor Bears because they absolutely dominated Gonzaga. And I know everyone
Good
was
night.
it was Cinderella's story. It was school from Spokane, Washington, and me being a Pacific Northwest kid. You're like, good for them, right? That's exciting. Oh my goodness gracious. Um, I feel like we should do some type of biblical verse analogy here. They got just absolutely crucified last night. The opening,
Because it's two Christian schools, right? The Baylor Baptists.
yeah,
The B in Baylor does not just stand for Baptist now, but boat race is they boat race Gonzaga versus whatever religious affiliation Gonzaga is. I'm forgetting off the top of my head their religious affiliation, but I do know that they indeed have one.
yeah.
So
So
no, it was a big time win for Baylor last night. That's for sure.
it was massive. I knew it was over when in the first quarter, I think the run was like, I think it was almost like 16-0, and they just outmatched, outplayed, like Chickapah, like just completely annihilated them to the point that it's one of these champions. It's funny how these championship games, college football, um, professional sports, any sport you look into, you always have the small team make a run, but as you always say, Connor, good players make good plays. Look
Well,
at the
here's the thing, Rutledge, and would love to hear your take. One of the things that we heard about a lot today from all of the all of the talking heads was, well, Gonzaga, they just weren't, they were a paper tiger. Rutledge, what do you think about their schedule, and what do you think? I mean, were they a paper tiger, or was this team, did this team just catch a really good team on one of their good nights?
I don't think it's that they were a paper tiger. I think Gonzaga, undefeated is undefeated. A lot of things have to go right. Um, but to the direction I was going, and I'll answer your question, but want to wrap back around with what I was saying,
Mm-hmm.
was the Baylor won in the same way that Lakers destroyed the Heat in the finals, in the same way that um, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Kansas City Chiefs with good players, in the same way that the Tampa Bay Rays lost, in the same way that the Lightning won in hockey, in the same way that Orlando City in the bubble in the or MLS's back tournament lost. Teams can get plucky and go on a run, but at the end of the day, especially this year, sports has shown us that those that are good are that are good. Yes, Gonzaga went undefeated, and their schedule helped ish. I know a lot of people will credit that West Virginia win. They didn't go deep in the schedule, and while they were supposed to originally play Baylor, Baylor came from a team where how many Big 12 teams were in the tournament, Connor? Would you say 8?
I believe it was eight in the Big 12 made the tournament this year.
Yeah, and Kansas was not a. They didn't just kind of win games. They dominated one of their tournament win games, and just people absolutely made an impact. And when you play and you dominate a good conference, even though they had COVID time, they showed they are who we thought they were. So I think it just came to a matter of talent on the team. You knew that from the first couple minutes when they just were wrecking them. So I believe Baylor won not because Gonzaga was bad. I believe Baylor won because they were just better. And kudos to them because they built that program from 2003 up. So massive thing. Uh, B is for beat down, right, Connor?
B is for beat down. B is for boat race. B is for better. B is for a lot of things, along with Bears tonight, Rutledge. That's for sure. And just the way that Baylor came out, right? Building that 11-1 lead and then making it 16-4. I know Gonzaga closed it a little bit. I believe the smallest deficit Gonzaga was able to get to was 9 points. But no, Baylor, if it wasn't for that COVID break and, the Jayhawks, when Baylor played Kansas, obviously they, lost their next game. But if it wasn't for that COVID break and all of the issues there, we really could have seen two undefeated teams there last night. And definitely hat tip to Baylor, hat tip to Scott Drew. I remember my brother went to Baylor right when Scott Drew became their head coach. So I remember Baylor basketball literally 18 years ago. They had a lot of issues within their program. And Scott Drew, he's stuck it out. And he's built that program up in a really, really nice way. And who knows? He could definitely he could stick around Baylor for the next 30 years. He's still pretty young. I believe he's literally 51. Or he could maybe be the next Kentucky coach. Who knows? So definitely big time hat tip to the Bears. As it relates to Gonzaga, Rutledge, I don't know some of your thoughts on Gonzaga. A lot of it, in my opinion, has to deal with just being outclassed athletically. Watching that game, the Bears seem to really just get after Gonzaga athletically.
Gonzaga is going to be a program that is going to eventually, they're going to have to recruit talent to want to go live in Spokane, Washington. And I don't say that ill, but we had in one of our previous shows, I had a discussion about why would Les Miles struggle at Kansas? Well, that take didn't age very well. He did a lot of things wrong, but it's getting kids to go into a program with a certain standard of life and a certain aspect and a certain facilities. Gonzaga sure is a good basketball school, but who do you have nationally? I was very impressed when Baylor was announcing, they had a lot of national names. One of the kids was from Hinesville, Georgia, which is a very tiny town, but good for him that he went all the way out to Baylor. Baylor's got that big Texas money, that big facilities. Gonzaga, I think, could be back because that's their big focus is basketball, but it's going to hit the same ceiling of college football, why some schools just can't outdo Alabama. Because eventually they prove that you're not in the same league as them. Now,
Oh, yeah. So,
that's
Rutledge, one of the interesting things last night was there was a guy who had a lot of hype but really, really struggled. His name was Cody Kispert, the Gonzaga player. And, definitely want to give my little take here. I know we're not at halftime yet, but definitely want to share my take. And that is, I think as this game progressed, and I heard some, as I was prepping for tonight, there were some folks there with some NBA players that had kind of seen that Kispert was a projected first rounder and this, that, and the other. And these NBA guys are like, no, Kispert's not a first rounder. I think that if Kispert's draft stock falls as a result of this game, it could be a real blessing in disguise. because he might not be athletic enough to really develop and be a great NBA player. I think that maybe if he gets drafted a little bit lower, he could come into the league with less pressure and really develop into a nice player.
Yeah, you don't want to be set up for failure. Liking it could be a good situation to kind of like the same thing that happened to Heisman run for Felipe Franks with Florida. When you lose at the right time, it relaxes you later. So we'll see what college football has in the future. Later in halftime hot takes, we're going to give our bold, way too early prediction. But it's time for our NBA team of the week, a recurring conversation. And we're going to start with number one here. So I know, Connor, you wish we were talking the Denver Nuggets. We're not. We're talking the Utah Jazz, who are up 19 to 15 right now, as I made
Well,
some
actually,
offensive adjustments.
Rutledge, per our text message conversation, the team that I wish we were talking about actually beat these Jazz last night.
And that's true. That's the Dallas Mavericks, which they did lose on Monday. This week, funny you bring up schedule. The Jazz they're going to prove a lot this week's schedule with everything they got playing. Hold on, I need this to go in. All right, run in transition. So this week's schedule for the Jazz, they lost to the Mavs. They have the Suns tomorrow night. They play Portland this week, and then they play Sacramento on Thursday. They're currently 38 and 12. They're number one record in the league and number one in the West. They are nice block. Um, they are 22 and 2 at home, and then their road record is they are 16 and 10 on the road. So Connor, who's kind of leading the way for the Jazz?
I think first and foremost, we got to talk about Rudy Gobert. Definitely having a really good season. I know before we've had the conversation of, would you rather have Jokic, Gobert, or Embiid on your roster? Uh, Gobert, whether or not you take the other two guys, Gobert is no slouch. I think Donovan Mitchell scoring 25 points a game is a big time asset to the Jazz. One player that I think shouldn't be overlooked, especially with the amount of good guard play out west, is Mike Conley. The ageless wonder, Mike Conley, it can is a guy who hasn't won a title, a guy who can just be that gritty, maybe point guard to come in, play some defense, get the ball where it needs to go, and kind of work from there. And I really think that Mike Conley will continue to have a big role in with the Jazz throughout the rest of their season and into their playoff run.
Yeah, their roster's doing them some favors. Rudy Gobert is top two, if not leads the league, in three different stats categories. That's rebounds, blocks, and his field goal percentage shooting. I liken him to where he's almost like a Shaquille O'Neal that can shoot. So if you put him on the free throw line, you don't get really worried. Someone else to talk about is they also can shoot out from the perimeters. Joe Ingles is 50% from the three-point line, which is second in the NBA. So and I'm just quoting you all night tonight, Connor, with all of your great sayings. They win in a variety of ways. They lead the league in offense. They lead the league in defense. Um, they have a month to go until the playoffs. Playoffs start May 18th. Remember, there's the NBA play-in tournament to where the top six are locked in, and then 7, 8, 9, and 10 have to play for the remaining playoff spots. In like this weird, I think it was if you're number 8, you get two chances to play. Whole rule, but it's going to be cool to watch. Um, the team
So,
of concern. Go ahead.
mm-hmm. No,
I think
go. Who's the team of concern?
in
Maybe
the
these Nuggets after that nice easy lay-in.
that was a oh man, it was so wide open. Um, the team of concern for me in the West is not the Lakers this year. The Lakers lost a lot of their bench depth with no Rondo and no Dwight Howard, which is showing. AD and LeBron are hurt. I believe the West. The Nugs are pretty good. Of course, the Jazz are leading it, but I think it's all about how well does Phoenix do. So how do the Jazz contend against Phoenix? Super excited for this matchup on Wednesday. Um, but it's going to be, they win a lot, but how do they do in a series? So I have some dates that you need to circle on your calendar, Connor. And that is
Go
going
on.
forward April 17th and April 19th. In the remaining parts of their schedule, the Jazz will play the Lakers twice at home and back to back. Yeah, Gobert fouled you. But they play the Lakers back to back, and I want to see how they do with going back to back games against the same teams. You know, there's one thing to be said where you play a series, and even your division, your conference person or your division person, you see them again and again, and you get a feeling for what they're going to do. But what is it like to go night in and night out? You know, do they go 2 and 0? Do they go 1 and 1? Do they go 0 and 2? So I think that's going to be big for them. So you were going to say something, Connor. What was it you wanted to talk about?
Rutledge, one of the
Or we were talking
interesting things,
playoffs.
especially as you brought up the Jazz and their ability in questioning how they would do throughout the course of a series. They just had a very interesting run where they not only did they have to play the Memphis Grizzlies. I know the Memphis Grizzlies, aren't the Phoenix Suns by any stretch, but they had to play the same NBA team 3 times in 6 days. And not only that, but their third game in 6 days where they had to play the Memphis Grizzlies, their plane nearly crashed. I don't know if you remember that story that came up, Rutledge.
Tell our viewers about it, Connor.
It was kind of bottom line was they were flying to Memphis for their game, and they literally had an engine explode. And there you go. Donovan Mitchell, who is a nervous flyer as it was, literally would not go to the game because he was too nervous to fly. And the Jazz ended up beating Memphis for the third time in 6 days, a game that they could have definitely kind of mailed it in, a game that they could have said, you know what, we are a little emotionally exhausted, a little emotionally drained, but they came out and they won anyway. So, I think that the Jazz are definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with. So let me ask you this, Rutledge, because you seem to be all in on the Jazz. What do you think stops the Jazz throughout a playoff series?
Um, I think it's going to be how do you limit Gobert's role? How do you take Rudy Gobert out of it? He's so versatile. You know, he's good in the glass, he's good in the paint, he's good defensively. How do you limit his sort of role? How do you play around him? Even now tonight, he's playing right where the big man should be, playing just outside of the key, hanging down there in the paint. How do you take him out of the equation? And how do you make them shoot out on the perimeter? It's going to be tough on them because, you know, Donovan Mitchell can score points. But I think for anyone, they're going to have to do, and they're going to have to make the Jazz one-dimensional, or they're going to have to make them work around your defense. Has anyone done that yet? Some, but with only 12 losses for the year, it's not a consistent thing that someone can do. That's why I want to see what can the Lakers do. Now, I don't know if LeBron and AD will play that night. I don't think they'll be back yet. But how will the Lakers handle that on the 17th and 19th? And like you said, Memphis couldn't. So it's going to have to be, I think with the overall outlook for them, it's not going to be about the West. I think they're going to win the West and be the Western Conference champions. But
Wow, heard it here first, folks.
heard it here first. Utah Jazz Western Conference champions. They will play the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference. So I have the Lakers getting knocked out of the playoffs. But it's going to be how does Brooklyn handle them? Or, um, how does I would really put it up to Brooklyn, or how does even maybe Milwaukee take them? But it's going to be big. What could beat them in your eyes, Connor? What do you have that takes the Jazz down? The Nuggets, I'm assuming?
You know, I don't think that the Suns are. I think that Mike Conley can sort of neutralize Chris Paul a little bit, right? You just kind of tell Mike Conley, hey, you just make Chris Paul's night terrible. That's your role. I think Mike Conley will embrace that. And I think that even though the Suns have not just DeAndre Ayton, but also Nerlens Noel as kind of a secondary player to throw at Rudy Gobert, I kind of see the Jazz, unless Devin Booker just does some things that we've never seen before, I kind of think that the Jazz can beat the uh, can beat the Suns there. I think that in the East, the big thing will just be that wing defense, right? Whether or not you're having to face James Harden, Kevin Durant, whether or not you're having to match up against Giannis, right? That wing defense is so critical that it'll be very interesting to see how the Jazz operate from there.
I think the sky for them is the limit. The only person they need to worry about is themselves if they're going to beat themselves. So big on the
Mm.
Jazz. I have a very high confidence in them. Connor, how far do you see them going in the playoffs?
I could. How far do I see them right now? I see the Utah Jazz making the conference finals, whether or not it's a Phoenix Suns team. I just said that the Phoenix Suns would lose to the Jazz. I could see the Clippers beating the Jazz, actually.
Okay, so you see the Clippers
So
beating the Jazz before the
I'm
conference
I'm still
finals.
on that Clipper train.
All right, we'll have to talk Clippers more one day for you to defend them. But now it's time for our world famous halftime hot take to all of our viewers out there. This week, we're going to talk about March Madness 2022 and who we think is going to get there. So, who are you taking to win it all in 2022?
I think that in 2022, there is nothing to stop Gonzaga in 2022. They're going to lose Jalen Suggs and they're going to lose Corey Kispert, but they do return a lot of good players, and I think Gonzaga could be kind of like what happened to Virginia a few years ago, where Virginia got upset early. I know Gonzaga got upset late, but Gonzaga got upset early or late, pardon me. And I think that the returning players could have some real salt in their shorts and make a run and be able to finally cut the nets down.
All right, I'm actually going to stay with Baylor. It's going to be they're going to have to rebuild, reload type deal for them to take it, but they have to get everyone in the Big 12 is going to rebuild, is going to power up from this year. I think Kansas will be better. I think Texas will still be consistent. I think after Cade Cunningham leaves Oklahoma State, I think they'll be down. Um, Oklahoma will be better. But I think everyone's going to walk away from this. But I feel like with an 18-year legacy to build up Baylor, they won the NIT last year. I don't see that, even though college basketball, we don't see a lot of repeat champions, except for, what was it, Florida about 15 years ago. I
Yeah, it was
think,
about 10, 15 years ago when the Gators went back to back.
yeah, and that's impressive. If March Madness, which we love it for what it is, but if it wasn't as wild, I think they'd have an easier road. But I'm taking Baylor. They didn't last night. They showed even when their bench would rotate in, they showed no signs of slowing down. So B stands for back to back.
Mm, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And that is our halftime hot takes presented by the coffee that I put into my microwave every morning to make sure it's very hot.
Presented by Why Am I Awake Again?
Why am I awake again? Rutledge, one of the beautiful things about this time of year is we've got buds on the trees that are awake. Some would say the azaleas are blooming. There's a lot of fun sports to be had during springtime.
Oh, I mean, I like to think there's not just buds on the trees, there's buds in the diamonds. As baseball
There's
is
buds in
back,
hands.
there's buds in hands with hot dogs. But before we get into baseball, you're right, Connor. It's Masters Week. It's that week
Mm.
of the year. Uh, I can, of course, remember our last Masters Week promo was this past November, but it's April. You can go to the tournament this year. It's different for fans. In order to get admitted to the Augusta National Golf Course as a fan, you have to have a COVID test within 72 hours of going in, and the name on your ID has to match the name on the test. If your test is not there, it doesn't follow the guidelines, you do not get admitted. You have to wear masks, you have to practice social distancing, but you can take your mask off while you eat. But it feels good to have people back at the tournament this year. It makes the world feel kind of right to know that probably one of the most beautiful games outside of the beautiful game, probably one of the most beautiful weekends in America is going to have fans.
Very, very excited for that. So much tradition. It's really, the Masters is really fun in the same way that Daytona is really fun for NASCAR. It's a little bit earlier in their season. So, just kind of a fun early season, really, really important traditional game. And you've gone on quite a run here to start this second half.
Yeah, I was down 37-39. I'm up 45-39. We're playing Utah versus Denver, 8 o'clock, Friend Stream Sports this Tuesday. Hello to our podcast listeners. Come out and watch us live sometime.
No doubt, no doubt. So, Rutledge, kind of run through for our podcast listeners who are the players to watch as we're recording this on Tuesday. The action really gets started on Thursday. Who should they be watching out for?
So definitely the teams that you need to watch are you need to take time and pay attention to Dustin Johnson. BetMGM has him as a 9-1 favorite. Dustin, of course, won last year. He had a really nice dinner as his Champions Dinner was released on the internet. It looked delicious. Then Jordan Spieth and Justin Thompson are 10-1s. Bryson DeChambeau is an 11-1 favorite. John Ram is 12-1, and the very famous Rory McIlroy is 14-1. The big thing to know about the Masters, kind of like any golf tournament, it's where do we sit going into where are you at on Friday night? How do you look with the cut? So if you haven't ever followed golf, particularly as a fan, you have to make a certain score in order to play over the weekend. You have to do so well on Thursday and Friday. So where do you fall within the cut and how close are you? You need to be kind of in the top 10 or so because that depends on who you're going to tee off with. So that'll be the big tell um, about. Oh, I thought I was going to joke all over Jokic. That'll be the big tell for the weekend. I'm going to watch for Dustin Johnson to do the repeat. It doesn't happen very often outside of maybe, I think Tiger repeated once, or maybe like Phil Jackson, but I'm really just saying famous golf names. So
You mean
Justin,
Phil Mickelson? Phil
Phil,
Jackson is a famous basketball coach.
see that's what I'm saying. This is how much I'm guessing, is I'm not even saying the right sport. Thanks, I appreciate that, Connor. You are a fact checker. But I'm going Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth at the top. Those two have been fairly consistent for the game. We know that Tiger
Nice.
is not there. We hope he's doing okay.
Yeah,
But
they apparently at the Champions Dinner, they left an open seat for him tonight, which was a very classy move. So, Rutledge, have you ever been to the Masters before? Have you ever stepped foot in those hallowed grounds of Augusta?
being from Augusta, I have, but I want to share something more exciting is that the Masters is coming to me this year. In that on
Oh,
Fanatics, you could buy a Taste of the Masters meal kit, and you get uh, potato chips, chocolate chip cookies, egg salad, pimento cheese, and then barbecue served at the tournament, and like 25 Masters cups. So,
oh,
Connor, whenever
that's
you're coming
awesome.
over, if you're like, can I have some water? It's going to be in a Masters cup. I'm pretty excited. I've never paid so
I
much
would
for
be
pimento
excited.
cheese in my life. But I've been to the tournament. Being in Augusta, you get a chance to go to the tournament. You kind of find friends with tickets. My family never had them, but we would always find a way in with borrowing badges from people. Love the tournament. My two favorite moments is I'm walking on to, we're at walking on 16, and it had rained off and on all weekend. The weather in Augusta this time of year is very weird. It's either super hot, like you're just sweating it out, or uh, you're hanging out there and it is freezing and raining and wet. So it was one of those wet years. So I'm walking on 16 and with the person I'm at the tournament, and we find Tiger Woods. Because when you go to a golf tournament and Tiger was there, you just got to see him to say you saw him. It's like having pizza in New York. It's like having a Chicago dog in Chicago. You have to do it. So we're there. We walk. Terrain's wet. I look. There's Tiger Woods. I go down a hill and my boat shoes I had on did not have the grip I thought I did, and I about just slipped in the mud and beefed it on national TV. Luckily, I caught myself, and it was like as he was teeing off, so he had to be quiet to be respectful. But that was my embarrassing moment. I will tell you the good moment of all of it was as we were sitting there on the tournament, I was walking up with my friends, or the people I was with. As we were walking up, we looked around, and I looked and this truck rolled up beside me. And I looked in the truck, and from like bottom of the bed all the way to the top, across it was just pimento cheese sandwiches. Like the temptation was way too high to just reach in and say, "These are mine." But
It
all
was
pimento.
too high. Does that mean you have stolen things from Augusta National during Masters Week?
No, I did not steal anything. I definitely looked at it and thought, "Ah, that's incredible." I definitely. But the cool thing about the tournament is that, a sandwich and like a beer is like less than $10. You can go in there and have yourself a good time. There's two types of fans that go to the Masters when you go. There's the hardcore golf guy, and the hardcore golf guy is he's what you think of as a hardcore golf guy. He's wearing his golf polo. He's a little bald. Uh, maybe he's in sales, maybe he's not. But either way, he's the hardcore golf guy. Golf is his thing, and he's there because that's his homage trip. It's kind of the same thing as when you, as a big sports fan, go to a game in your favorite stadium. The other people that are there are what I like to call spectacle sports people. They're there because it's an event, and they're there because it's fancy. Like someone that would go to the Kentucky Derby and not know anything about horse racing, or someone that would go to a football game just to tailgate and get a little rowdy. So it's interesting to see that even at the Masters you have both of those. But Augusta's a lot of fun to be in around at that time. Obviously, it'll be a little different because COVID has such an economic impact on the country. But I'm excited the tournament's there. I'm excited there's fans back. It's good for the Augusta area. It's good for golf. It's good for sports. We revere the Masters so much that it's just good to have people there to revere it.
That is very true. Um, and that three, I had some good ball movement there. I've been not been moving the ball well this evening here as you are beating me by 2 points. But glad to hear all your Augusta stories do have happy endings for sure. So, Rutledge, as we finish into this third quarter, I mean, what else you want to talk about? What other spring sports are you super pumped about right now?
There's definitely Champions League going on, Connor. Give us a quick score update as I realized how long I talked for about the Masters.
That's all right. You're just into the Masters.
I
So the first leg of the quarterfinals was this evening here, or this afternoon rather, and we had Real Madrid play Liverpool at Real Madrid. What's interesting is that game is played at Real Madrid's practice facility. Um, Real Madrid won 3-1, which is a pretty commanding lead. But because Liverpool is seventh right now in the Premier League, and Real Madrid is playing for the league title, stands to reason that in the second leg at Anfield, Liverpool is going to come out firing on all cylinders. Next, you had Manchester City versus Dortmund, and Manchester City won 2-0 or 2-1, pardon me, against Dortmund. A little tighter game there. Dortmund with the away goal at the Etihad in Manchester. So definitely interested to see how that one finishes up. Next, our other two games, PSG versus Bayern, which is probably the biggest marquee matchup, as well as Porto versus Chelsea, probably the least marquee matchup. So that's a quick Champions League rundown for you as we finish out this third quarter.
Huge, absolutely huge. Um, Big on that. Very excited to see kind of where the Champions League goes. I was very
I hope
surprised that
Pulisic gets back. He hurt his hamstring.
I know, I was very surprised that Real Madrid put it on Liverpool so much. You think about how Liverpool used to be a couple years ago unbeatable, and as I always quote, when you make God bleed, the sharks will come in the water.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. It's time to talk about the NFL draft. So we are a couple weeks out from the NFL draft, and Connor and I wanted to go through in this fourth quarter and give basically reading what all the talking heads have said, our top 10 picks. So we'll go the team who's going to make the pick, and then we're going to talk about what the pick is, and maybe give a little opinion. So Connor, I feel like I wish we had the music. Maybe one day will be a real sports show, and we can do like the draft music on the board and
Oh,
have
that'd be
Roger
awesome.
Goodell come out and we can boo him. And one day
Boo, Roger Goodell.
when we get sponsored by real coffee companies, including Starbucks. This is Rutledge was for Starbucks. Give me your money. I mean, Starbucks, your coffee's delicious. Anyways,
And the fans just cheered as the Denver Nuggets took the lead, but that's neither here nor there. So the first pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't think there's much conversation to be had here. I'm going with the Jags taking Trevor Lawrence.
I'm going with the Jags taking Trevor Lawrence, but I'm giving some heat to this. Is Trevor Lawrence being set up for failure? And what I mean by that is, yes, Trevor Lawrence is probably one of the best QBs we have seen come out. He played in the ACC, which is an okay football conference, but as it goes, uh, is he going to do well? He has a first year coach for the NFL, and if it wasn't, if it was any other name but Urban Meyer, would they be going to that situation? So I have a lot of question marks about it. It's going to happen. The hair is going to go to Jacksonville. God bless him for the humidity, but I don't know if this is good for him.
All right, number 2, the New York Jets, which they just made a big trade today, which probably is tipping their hat on who they're going to be drafting. Rutledge, who do you think the Jets are going to take with the number 2 pick?
BYU quarterback Zach Wilson off the sure need. Remember when BYU destroyed Navy and we said, oh, Navy didn't practice because of COVID? They won all of their games this year with the exception of one to Coastal Carolina and embarrassed both of us because we picked UCF and they were absolute monsters against UCF. I think he's going to do great, and I think he's going to a great organization with a good new coaching staff.
Yeah, I think the Jets are going to go with Zach Wilson. He's starting to really be the second best quarterback in this draft. One of the things I remember we had a halftime hot take of where would you like to go as a college quarterback to really showcase? And I picked Stanford because you have to overcome some stuff. And I think in that same way, Zach Wilson at BYU had a ton of monster stats with maybe not the best players. So Robert Saleh definitely has some high hopes. We're a big fan of him on this show. And I think that the Jets are going to draft Zach Wilson now that Sam Darnold is no longer employed by them.
So,
Which takes us to our number 3 pick. Did you have anything to add?
number 3, San Francisco. I was just going to introduce the next pick, but you were doing it so well.
Number 3, the San Francisco 49ers. I think a lot of some of the things that some of the talking heads have been talking about is how much Kyle Shanahan is into Mac Jones, and I think that the Niners are going to take Mac Jones as they continue to look to move off of Jimmy G. Rutledge, what do you think?
I am also having them taking a quarterback, but I am going to go Justin Fields. Uh,
Wow.
Justin Fields is kind of that X factor. He throws those deep balls, circa Russell Wilson. He can move around. Ryan Day has been praising him like crazy. I have Justin Fields going there. If you think of the NFC West, that conference is becoming the conference to beat in. And why not just join in the party of what everyone else is doing? So definitely going Justin Fields.
With a foul. Not to go from real sports to fake sports here, but nice little foul here, putting Michael Porter Jr. on the line, maybe to extend this lead a little bit, and take us to the 4th pick. I know we talked about the Hawks last week, Rutledge, the Atlanta Homer. Who are the Falcons taking with this 4th pick?
The Falcons, now this is us both saying that the Falcons won't trade out, which there's been a lot of news. ESPN, NFL show talked about the Falcons trading out a lot. So here I have 2 takes. First of all, I think their pick, if they stay with it and they stay with Matt Ryan, they're going to take Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida. Give him another weapon. Matt Ryan does really well when he has a good tight end to go with. Now, of course, that tight end that he has was the one and only Tony Gonzalez. But I have them doing that. I think if they didn't trade, it's because they want a quarterback and they don't have faith in Mac Jones, and that wouldn't work for them. So who do you have them taking?
Not quarterback, which is a potential pick for the Falcons. I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts as well. Matt Ryan already has 2 studs at receiver. I don't think that the Falcons are quite ready to move off of Matt Ryan. And Kyle Pitts, just his pro day and his stats and his combine numbers are just off the charts. So going with Kyle Pitts, going number 4 to the Falcons, assuming that they keep that pick. Which brings us to our number 5 selection here in the draft, which is the Cincinnati Bengals.
Joe Burrow needs help. Joe Burrow is going to get Jamar Chase from LSU, his star wide receiver.
There you go. Heard it there. Maybe not first, but you heard it here on this show first.
Yeah.
I too am going Jamar Chase. I don't think they should pick Jamar Chase if they're going receiver. I think Devontae Smith is better than Jamar Chase, but just that familiarity between Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, I think, is something that you have to consider and really think about in terms of what the Bengals are trying to do and get done in order to give Joe Burrow some more weapons, because that AFC North is nasty. The N in AFC North stands for nasty, folks.
So now we have the 6th pick with his down south in Florida with the Miami Dolphins. Connor, who do you have?
If Jamar Chase is going number 5 to the Bengals, I don't think the Dolphins are ready to move off of Tua just yet. I think that Devontae Smith goes to the Miami Dolphins there at 6.
I also have Devontae Smith. He was an absolute monster. He made Mac Jones look like an NFL quarterback, so I think it'll be good for Tua to get some weapons as well in a wide open division.
There you go. Yep. So moving into number 7 here, the Detroit Lions. Who are the Detroit Lions going to be taking?
Jalen Waddle, same reasons as Miami.
Yeah, no, you've got Jared Goff that just went to Detroit. I'm not in love with their coach. I usually, as a player, I kind of like some of that old school flair, but I'd rather be talking about analytics and things like that as opposed to biting off kneecaps. With that, I could see maybe a shorter leash on Jared Goff. I'm going to say something kind of crazy here. I think Justin Fields is going to go to the Detroit Lions.
Oh.
I think Jared Goff is going to be on a short leash, and I think that he is. I think that the Lions could be ready to pull the plug on the Jared Goff project very quickly
before it even starts.
Jokic just missed a 6-footer. That does not happen in real life. Things you only see in video games.
Nothing is going in.
Nothing is going in here, and I need to pass it before I get an 8-second violation. Here we go.
Carolina Panthers pick.
Number 8, who just traded for Sam Darnold.
Yeah. How do I call it?
Who are they picking?
This game? Sorry, we're just playing video games at this point. I have Penny Swell from Oregon. He's a tackle. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but they're going to invest on their offensive line. They're going to try to give Darnold some help, so I have him kind of helping out. Should be there for a very long time.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stay with tackle. They've got they're kind of set at receiver. They had the draft a couple years ago where they went all defense. But I'm going to go Rashawn Slater from Northwestern, going number 8 to the Panthers.
Okay. Number 9 is the Denver Broncos. I have Mac Jones going to Denver. It feels very much like a brand of quarterback they want to have in that franchise. Maybe he'll be a not as good Justin Herbert for them and make some deals. Also, Justin Herbert, be our friend.
Justin Herbert, be our friend. And I'm going to go Penei Sewell there at number 9, which leads us into number 10 as we close this game out. Who are the Cowboys taking at number 10?
Cowboys are taking a cornerback. I have J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. Even though South Carolina was horrible, some small pieces kept it together. It'll be a good shutdown for them.
I'm going the edge rusher out of Michigan, Kwity Paye. Dallas, they've got their quarterback, they got their running back, they got their receiver. They got to go defense, and you got to be able to rush the passer. So that's who I'm picking as we finish out tonight as the number 10 pick.
There you go. That's the NFL. We'll see how the draft goes down on April, isn't it April 17th? April
April
16th.
29th.
April 29th. You are the fact checker, Connor. This is why I have you. All right, that's our night. Good run back, by the way. I had you there for a while, and you really turned it around. So kudos to you. You just got me talking about the Masters, and then you took home the W. Way to go, Connor.
There's a little thing called psychological warfare.
You do have the coaching experience over me, so I know that's why you're better at this than I
Ha.
am.
Well, Rutledge, who are we picking tonight?
So we're gonna pick some Champions League games, and then we're also gonna pick the record for the Jazz for this week. So the Jazz have already lost one. How many more wins do you think they're gonna have? With once again their schedule for the rest of the week is they have the Suns, Portland, and Sacramento. So where do you see the Jazz going this week?
I think the Suns go 2-1, or pardon me, not the Suns, the Jazz. I think the Jazz lose to the Suns, but then beat Portland and Sacramento. So to finish this week 2-1.
I also am going to take it 2-1 for the rest of their games. They will lose to the Suns, but they will give Damian Lillard a bad night. In the Champions League, we have PSG versus Bayern Munich. I'm picking Bayern to win their first of the aggregate games.
Yes, not just Biner, but also Bayern. I think Bayern is going to come out clicking on all cylinders, and PSG was my bust, and I think that the the quarterfinals is going to be just as far as PSG goes.
I agree with you. Thank you once again, Connor, the fact checker. What would I do without you? Uh, we have Chelsea versus who are they playing? I'm not even confident in saying my own name at this point tonight.
Porto
Thank
from
you.
Portugal.
Who are you taking?
Uh, Going with Chelsea, I think that they had a horrible game on the weekend, losing 5-2, but they just have too much firepower, and I think Chelsea could have been just a blip. And I don't think that losing 5-2 on the weekend is going to really mess them up all that much.
There you go. Think it'll do well. I'm also going to take Chelsea. Our last pick, of course, is NASCAR is back. They are this Saturday night at Martinsville. Small short track night race. I'm going to take a wild card for a pole. He needs to make some noise. It's not his forte, but I'm going Chase Elliott. I just have a feeling he's going to do something.
Wonderful. And got to stick with pick integrity, staying with Joey Logano to win that pole.
There you go. Pick integrity. That's big on this show. We want to thank everyone for coming out and watching us. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Remember, subscribe to us on YouTube. We are on the quest for 50. We get closer every day because of you and you all following us. I also want to give a shout out to Carmen and Gabe of Dude Thoughts. I made an appearance on their podcast last week talking about baseball and did some predictions for records. Some of those aren't doing too well after the first week, but more on that another time. Connor, do you
I
have
can't
anything
wait to talk some baseball. We can talk, and I won't even say his first name because I'll butcher it, but I want to talk that Otani guy for the Angels.
We
I think
need to.
he's awesome.
It could be next week. We talk some baseball. Could be a big thing for us. But
But,
Connor, anything to share before we go for the evening?
as the weather warms up, you got to keep it cool.
It's beautiful. That was. I love that. All right. Well, on that being said, I'm Rutledge,
And I'm Connor.
and we're Friend Stream Sports, and have a great night.
See